Well, this is an effing mess if I've ever seen one. Good morning, everyone. It's Stephen here for Bland Designs and the Idiot Quilter, and welcome to my weekly vlog for Monday, January the 16th, 2023, and it's vlog number 299. One away from 300. Hard to believe. Yep. So let's jump right into things. What have I been working on? Well, very quickly, I have been working on this. Now, I've been working on this one for quite a while because I've been doing it in small sessions. When I go to the club with Walter with his sewing class, when we have a sew day, this is what I've been working on. Well, it's all together now. At least the top is finished. It's hanging on my Lucy, my long arm right now, waiting to be quilted. Actually, I have another one out there for quilting too, so maybe later this week I'll get on with that, and I'll let you see it when that is done. Now, at the risk of repeating myself, because if you saw So Chatty this past week, then you know we talked about some of the things that we don't like about YouTube channels, and one of those is same old, same old. And I did say that there is overlap between my vlog and the Idiot Quilter. And one of those overlaps at times tends to be what I'm working on. But the difference there is on the Idiot Quilter, because that one is more specific to people who sew, I talk about these kind of things that I show you here on the vlog in a little bit more detail. So if you want to know more details about this particular quilt design, then tune into the Quilter tomorrow, which would be Tuesday if you're seeing this sometime if you're seeing it right now in real time. Okay, the other thing I'm playing with, now I've put this one kind of on hold because I have some other projects ahead of this, but I bought an AccuQuilt die that creates these Lemoyne stars. And the beauty of the AccuQuilt die is, beyond the fact that it cuts your fabric very accurately and it's faster, is that in a design like this there aren't any Y seams. And for those of you that don't quilt, a Y seam is this intersection point up here between these two triangles and join the three pieces together. That's a Y seam. So I've done them. I don't like doing them. They're tedious and they do take a lot of time unless you do them on a regular basis. But anyways, I'm just playing with this. I don't know what this is going to become. This is not all of the blocks. Obviously, I'll need some more. And yeah, that's a project that's going to sit for a while because right now I have other ones that are more important that I need to get to. So that takes me to the YouTube channel of the week. Now, you know that every week I find something different to talk about when it comes to a YouTube channel. And these are very eclectic. And what I mean by that is I just see something that catches my attention and I'll watch a few episodes from it. And if I like it, I'll kind of go on a binge watch with it. Sort of like doing Netflix, only with YouTube. And the latest one I found is actually a whole collection of a lot of things, and it's called Our Stories. And here's more details about that. This week's YouTube channel of the week is one I stumbled upon accidentally when I saw in recommended videos something about luxury hotels in downtown London, England. And I'm interested in that kind of thing, so I watched it and I found it really interesting. So I explored this particular YouTube channel a little further, and it has a lot of really interesting things. It's called Our Stories by ITV Studios. And this is something that comes out of the UK. And if we just take a look here quickly at what they have in their lineup, they have something called Bear Grylls Survival School, which I think is a television production that's available in England, in the London area, I guess, on British television. I don't know really what it's about, but I noticed a few other things here that caught my interest, like behind the scenes of Australia's busiest airport. And I have watched some of these ones before, and they're really interesting, looking at what stupid things people try to get away with at airports. Then there's this one. Now, I have not checked out these before, but Yearbook. Teachers smell weed in boys' toilet at school. Ladies' man gets a girlfriend in detention. Popular girls fight over prom date. A student refuses to listen to teachers. I think I may be checking these ones out real soon because I've lived that. Again, here's the whole thing about Australia's busiest airport. Um, and then behind the scenes of a high street bank. Uh, so KFC behind the scenes. So there's lots of behind the scene kinds of things. So there's a lot here to keep you very entertained and some educational content as well. So if you're interested in a real selection of programming that is more available to a British audience than to us in North America, you might want to try out this YouTube channel called Our Stories. So there's a link to that YouTube channel in my show notes below. You'll also find a link for the interview I did last week with Pat Jennings, a very talented art quilter. I'm not sure if she actually calls herself an art quilter. Well, I think she does. But her stuff truly is a wonderful representation of what art quilting is all about. So if you're interested in that, you should check it out. And she's a lovely person too. It was a great interview. On the Idiot Quilter episode, we talked about projects and sew-alongs. I am involved in a sew-along right now with Stephanie Stitches, so you may want to check that out either on her channel or here on mine. We're doing it live Wednesday mornings at 9 a.m., so please feel free to join us. Even if you're not going to do the quilt, it doesn't matter. You can still join us. And there is a link to the blurb about what that's all about as well. In So Chatty, which I already have mentioned, we talked about what attracts us to a YouTube channel and what doesn't. Actually, we talked more about what doesn't than we did about what does. And it's basically a lot of pet peeves. But from the comments I've been getting so far about that episode, a lot of you seem to have the same thoughts about these things. You know, it's kind of dangerous, and I say that at the beginning of that episode, that, you know, he who lives in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, okay? Many of the things that I criticized, I have been guilty of doing one time or another, but I really try not to on mine. I'm not saying that I'm perfect, because I'm far from it, but I'm just letting you know kind of like what kind of things that really do annoy us. And you know, YouTube content creators need to be conscious of that, because you know, if you want to keep your subscribers, well, there's certain things you shouldn't do, I guess. I've just learned that from my own experience. So if you're interested in hearing our take on all that, then check out So Chatty episode 88, and there's a link for that in the show notes. And of course, there's a link for Stephen and Walter Live, which was about everything. It always is, right? So you can check that out as well. So that takes me to looking out my window this morning. And here from my Ring camera, you can see, yes, the snow is back. We didn't get a lot. This looks like, well, it depends on what part of the world you live in, whether this looks like a lot of snow or not. It's a lot more snow than we had last week when I showed you what things are looking like outside. But it's not major. Now, I don't know what's in the forecast. I haven't checked it to see if we've got snow on the way. It is -8, though, today, Celsius, so that's chilly. That's chilly. Okay, I know those of you that live out in Western Canada are laughing at me right now going, you don't know chilly. And you're right, and I want to keep it that way. But yeah, so that's what it's looking like. Now, I show you every week, and I've been doing it now for, I think it's been a year. Where I've been taking these shots from outside on my the front of my house, and I think it's getting time now where I want to take all those pictures and put them together like a time lapse, and just see the seasons go by. I have to see what how many I've got, if I've got a full year of them, and I might do that if I can figure out how to do that. So yeah, I get the hiccups now. I always get the hiccups when I'm doing something like this. Anyways, that's an idea. I thought it might be just fun to see what it looks like. I can't tell whether, oh yeah, I've got the hiccups bad. Let me have a little drink. I don't know whether or not we're going to have a sunny day or not. As I said, I haven't looked at the forecast. I'm seeing over in the eastern sky, because that is the eastern sky we're looking at, there looks like there's some light coming up. Of course, it's still dark out because I do my vlogs very early in the morning, and it's like 20 after 7 in the morning here right now. We won't see light until closer to 8 o'clock. Um, so, yeah, what can I say? I'm an early bird. Um, and lately I've been very early because I've been waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Now, I usually go back to sleep for about an hour, but about 5 o'clock, my internal clock goes off, and I never use an alarm. Well, especially now that I'm retired, it's my time, which is kind of ironic, isn't it? Um, you know, I'm retired. I've been retired for over 10 years now. It's my time. You would think, well, I remember when I was, dreaming about retirement, that I thought, yeah, no longer do I have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get myself ready to trundle off to school for like 6:30 in the morning and all that kind of stuff. And guess what? Ironically, yeah, I'm still getting up early. And you'd think after 10 years I'd be out of that. Not only that, though, lately, in the last probably 6 months, I've started to go to bed a lot later than I usually do. I'm usually in bed by 9:30, or used to be. That's not me now. Again, something else has changed. Um, I'm going to bed at about 11 or 10:30, and then I read for half an hour and then go to sleep. And then bang, I'm wide awake at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. So I'm getting about 6 hours of sleep. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I remember reading something, and of course these reports always conflict with each other, that as you get older, you need less sleep. But then I read something that said it's not good for older people to not get a good 7 or 8 hours of sleep in every night. So I don't know. It's like this month coffee is bad for you and will give you cancer. Next month is drink more coffee because it helps your nervous system or something else. I don't know. I don't know. And you know what? I don't think they do either, the so-called experts. But anyways, at the risk of this becoming a rant, let's move on, shall we? So, speaking of rants, what's pissing me off this week? Well, if you've been watching me for a while, we have been, and when I say we, I mean Walter has been, my personal travel agent, planning 2 trips. And they're pretty much all booked now. Mid-April, we're flying to Vancouver, BC. And Walter's got all our hotels arranged, rent-a car reserved. He's got our itinerary all together. And even booked our passage on the ferry that takes you from Vancouver to Vancouver Island to Victoria, which is the capital. So that's all done. That's all ready to go. And then in June, we're off to the East Coast. Now, that one we don't have to fly to. We're driving. But Walter's got all our hotels arranged and everything. He has our itinerary worked out, the whole bit. I'm just along for the ride. Now, you're all going to say, especially Walter's fan club, oh, he's such a dear. He does all of that for you. Yes, he is. And yes, he does. And he loves doing it. Okay? Walter loves doing travel planning. He has always done that. In fact, at one point, he said he thought he might like to, when he retired, become a travel agent. But no, he changed his mind on that. But nevertheless, he is my personal travel agent, and we've got it all worked out. Well, though, let's talk about the cost. Yeah. We haven't traveled since before the pandemic. Now, it's always expensive to travel, let's face it. Travel is not cheap, no matter where you're going. Travel's not cheap. You've got to pay for food. You got to pay for transportation. You got to pay for accommodation. And lots of incidentals like going to museums or attractions or events or things like that. So, yeah, traveling is expensive. However, for us, it's an important part of our lives because we love to travel. So we haven't done it since what? I think our last trip was to Australia in 2018. Yeah. So it's been, what, 4 years, a little more than 4 years. So it's time. Well, some things we have to pay for in advance, like we've paid for our flight to Vancouver. Well, actually, that one was pretty easy. We had enough points that we've got free flights. Well, not really free flights. No. And this is what I want to talk about, the nickel and diming, as I call it, of travel. Because right now, airlines, of course, are the boogeyman. We all hate them because of what's been going on lately with, cancellations of flights, people's luggage going around the world, never coming back to them. All kinds of stuff, lack of support staff, all of those wonderful things that are happening that make you want to stay away from an airport. But unfortunately, if you want to travel any distance in this world, in the modern world, in the 21st century world, you need to be on a plane. And they know that. And yeah, aren't they helpful? Do you remember the days of air travel where basically you could take 12,000 pieces of luggage that weighed 3 tons and not pay a dime for that? Free check-in of your bags. Well, that changed, didn't it? And that changed before the pandemic, and they started charging you for each bag. So what did people do? Well, people decided, I'm not paying that. They got these big badass carry-on bags that are really not carry-on bags. They are suitcases, and they're taking them on the flight and storing them in the overhead lockers if they can get them in. And of course, when you get on the plane, depending on what order they call you in, by the time you get on there, and if you've got something you need to put in the overhead bins, you can't. There's no space. And these poor flight attendants are up and down the aisles trying to stuff everything they possibly can in that. And so your bag could be like 12 rows behind you or 20 rows behind you or in front of you. You don't know where the hell it is, right? But I blame that problem on the airlines, because if they weren't charging people to check a bag, I mean, air travel tickets, at least in this country, are expensive, very expensive. So what do you get for that money? Well, you don't get a check bag, and you don't even get a seat. Well, you get a seat, but you could be anywhere in the plane. If you want a specific seat, like you want to sit next to your spouse or your friend or whatever, you have to pay to reserve that seat. Now, yes, people, I am talking about economy or regular class. I'm not talking about the business snob people. Yeah, I said snob. I would love to travel in business class. If I could afford it, I would, but I can't. Well, I could spend the money on it, but is it worth it? I'd rather spend my money during my trip to see things and to do things rather than, sit on a flight in business class. Although I have to admit, going on a trip like to Australia, it would be so nice to have a business class seat. It would, because that's a long, long flight. But to fly from here to Vancouver, for say, that's only 5 hours. I'll live, okay, with that. But anyways, back to the suitcase business. Okay, so if they have these little racks at the airport for checking the size of your carry-on, if it will not fit in that little rack, then you must check it. Well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. However, nobody at the airline checks that. They don't even bother. And so people get away with it. Now, yes, if they can't get your carry-on into an overhead bin, they will hold it back and tell you you're going to have to check it. But in many cases, when you do that, you don't get charged at that point for it. And some people play that ticket, okay? They figure, no, I'll just go on here. No one's stopping me from getting on with this badass suitcase. And I'll get on there. I know it's not going to fit in the overhead bin. But I'm going to get it for nothing because they're going to put it into the cargo hold for me. Yay. I hate those kind of people. I really do. Clever, yes. But they're a-holes. They're a-holes. In fact, anybody that gets on a plane with a bag that is oversized for the carry-on are a-holes. Yeah, I know. It's a pain in the ass to have to wait for your bag to come out, when you go have to pick it up on the big carousel or whatever. Yeah, I know that. However, Just selfish individuals. Pay the money and get it. And yes, of course, I know the other reason being right now is, well, you may never get your suitcase back. Yeah, but it's nickel and diming. And as I already mentioned, getting the seat that you want, nickel and diming. You pay for that. There's a whole bunch of other things you pay for too, as well, above and beyond the cost of the flight. So you have all of that you have to figure into your travel plans. Well, what else is there? Well, hotels. Hotels have gone up. Hotels have always been expensive, but they've gone up a lot, like double the price in many cases. Now, Walter's already booked all of our hotels, but what Walter does is he picks the hotel we're going at. He's very selective. He checks the area the hotel's located in. He checks its relationship to where we want to be in whatever city we're staying in. And he looks at their cancellation policy, which is a very important factor. Now, if you want to get a hotel that has like a 24-hour cancellation policy whereby you can get all your money back if you cancel within 24 hours, you are going to pay for that. If you don't care about that, you can pay a cheaper price in a lot of cases up front and take your chances that you don't have to cancel. Well, I'd rather pay a little bit more for the insurance of the assurance that I can cancel, because you don't know. Look, for example, if your flight's delayed or canceled. Tell me that scenario hasn't happened lately. Right. So it's worth paying that little extra for the cancellation. However, that's nickel and diming. Because what does a hotel have to lose if someone cancels? Come on, what they're charging for a room? And I'm not talking here highfalutin rooms. I'm talking, there's a bed, there's a bathroom, it's clean, that's a room. So I'm not talking here staying at, the Ritz or the Savoy or something like that with it. So there's no skin off their nose if someone didn't show up. In fact, there's probably somebody that's going to walk in off the street and take the room anyways. Yeah. So don't give me that they're just protecting their interests and all that. No, they're money grabbing. And then the other nickel and diming. Now, there was a trend before the pandemic where many, many places had included in your price a free brekkie. Well, it's not really free. You're paying for it in the room price, but you know what I mean? Usually they were self-serve kind of little, mini buffet kind of things, which is fine. Actually, I quite enjoyed those. It was convenient. It was included in the price. And usually the food was relatively simple, but it was okay. Well, now some places are throwing that in. Other places are not. If you'd like that, it's an extra $15 to $20 charge per person. Okay. Now at that point, you're looking at it going, brekkie's not really worth it. And so that's basically what we have done on this trip. If they want to charge you extra for the breakfast, we've decided no. We don't usually eat breakfast in the morning. I know, bad for your health. You should eat. It's the most important meal of the day. But we don't always, or we'll grab a muffin or something, on our way out, kind of a deal. So, not a biggie. If it's included with the room, that's great, bonus. But if it's not, we think twice about it. So another nickel and diming kind of a thing. Parking. Oh, there was a day and an age, I remember you went to a hotel, and if you got charged for parking, that was a shock, because usually you didn't. Well, now they all do. It doesn't matter what it is. And it's expensive. We're paying for parking in some hotels anywhere up to $40 a night. A night for parking. So there you go. Car rentals. Oh my God. Right out of the roof. Now, when we're in Vancouver, we need a car. So we have to bite the bullet and get one. Walter has found us a deal. He's worked it all out. if you pick up your car at the airport, because most of these car agencies have a one at the airport, and you drop it back off the airport, it actually costs you more money than if you pick up and drop off your car in the city center of wherever you are, or outlining outskirts. Now, in my way of thinking, why? Why does it cost more at the airport? Well, a lot of things cost more at the airport because of airport taxes, fees, whatever these companies have to pay for. But come on, like $200 more? What's that all about? And then, of course, they want you to buy additional insurance. Now, we have insurance. We have insurance coming out of the yin yang from different things that we belong to or have, and that kind of thing. But they still want to charge it to you. And in fact, we ran into a problem a couple of times when we were in Australia with car rental companies who decided that, yeah, suddenly when they found out that we didn't want to buy insurance and we gave them the credit card didn't work. And it was a scam. Yeah, we found out that was basically a scam. So you got to watch that as well. And then, of course, so they're all nickel and diming you for that kind of thing. So yeah, traveling is expensive, and there's all these other fees on top of it all. I mean, even hotels, they advertise this is going to be the price for the room. What they don't tell you is there's taxes, and it's not your usual taxes. Okay, it's not just your sales tax or whatever like that. There are special hotel taxes that are levied on the hotels or something, and they're trying to recoup them from the municipality you're in or whatever. I'm not sure where all these things come from, but there's always these other things in there built into it. So, the price you see is not necessarily the price you're going to pay. So you have to keep that in mind. So yeah, it's expensive to travel. So you got to really want to do it. And you just have to, I guess, bite the bullet on all these things. That's the way life is. Okay, so that takes me to the grow lights and how we're doing with those. Well, we bought a new one, another one. This is exactly the same model as the one we have already, which we're having really a lot of luck with. So we decided to make our garden a little bigger indoors, and we bought another one and have it sitting on another table in our rec room. And Walter has things planted on this, but we're doing something a little different. I mean, our herbs and our lettuce are doing really well in the other one. And I really like being able to harvest the fresh herbs and the lettuce, especially when I'm making a salad. But we use them in cooking as well. So it's great having it. So we have this one, and we're going to try to grow in this more lettuce, but we're switching out of the herbs because the herbs are just going crazy. We have lots of them. And we're going to try tomatoes, cherry tomatoes. Actually, the seeds I bought them from Amazon, are called dwarf tomatoes, and they're supposed to be suitable for growing them indoors in pots. So this is what I'm giving a try. We're trying some peppers. We're not sure how that will work. Now, we talked about this before about, starting our peppers early in the season, and then we'll transplant them when we can, in about June or tail end of May, whatever the weather's like, into the pots that we have out on our deck for the summer, because we found that growing peppers from seeds takes a long time. They have a long germination period, it seems. So we're going to try them here under lights and see what happens. Get them started. I don't know if we're going to get full-fledged pepper plants. I mean, this thing only goes up, well, you can see the little bars on the side of it. It only goes up that far. So, might not be enough, but we're giving it a try anyways. And of course, we have more lettuce. It's a certain variety that we found grows really well, lakeside or something lettuce. I can't remember what it's called. So we have that in there, and I'm not sure if we've got something else in there. All the pots have something though. So Walter wrote what's in each pot on a little plastic, knife kind of a thing with a Sharpie, and I can't read his writing. I'm not sure what these things are until they start coming up. And even then, I probably won't know until they really get much bigger. But anyways, we're enjoying this. It's an experiment. And, it's just really nice in the dead of winter having something green in your house. I find it really quite uplifting. Uplifting. Excuse me. Hiccup again. Um, we have them on a timer. So they come on at 6 o'clock in the morning. They shut off at 11 o'clock at night. So that's about 16 hours of light. And that's what is recommended that we give these plants. So, yeah, I'll keep you informed as to how our new one is doing. Okay, so what that takes me to. All right, let's talk about 3D printing, shall we? Having a problem with one of my printers, a major problem. It started to make a grinding noise. Actually, it was more like it was dying noise. It was in the middle of a print and suddenly it's going like really loud, kind of scary. So I've been trying to fix that problem. And the problem is that the part that the filament goes through and it heats up and melts out, that goes back and forth, it's called the x-axis, is jamming for some reason. So I took it all apart, and I think I mentioned this a week ago, I got a new belt for it because I thought it might be the belt, and I put the new belt in, and nope, same problem. So I have determined it is something called a stepper motor. And I'll show you what I mean here. I ordered a new stepper motor after I did some experimentation with this to see. And Amazon's a good place for getting parts for your 3D printers, at least for the Creality ones, which are probably the most popular of all the 3D printers because of their price point and their availability of parts. They have their quirks, but anyways, let me show you here what I'm talking about. So this is a stepper motor kit. And so that little silver thing with the wheel on it is a stepper motor right there. And the stepper motor basically, with the belt that runs across it, pulls the head, the filament head, hot end, I guess they call it, that the filament is fed through, back and forth to do the print. So I could have just bought the stepper motor by itself, which would have been a little less expensive. But I decided I'd get the whole kit because get a new housing for it, a new cutoff switch, and the parts that are needed to mount this. So later today, I am going to attempt to replace the old stepper motor with this one, and I'm hoping my problem is solved. Because if that doesn't solve my problem, well, I have one more thing I can do, and that's if you look down, let me see. No, that's not what I want to show you. I guess it's in that picture. Yeah, okay. If you look right here, see that little plastic part hanging out of the stepper motor? That's where a computer cable plugs into that, and that runs into the circuit board that controls everything. And I had read that if you were having a problem with this, it could be just the cable itself. So I bought myself a cable as well. I won't know until I install the new stepper motor whether or not the problem is with the cable. I mean, I suppose I could, just put in the new cable with the existing stepper motor and see if that works. But the problem with that is I kind of have to get underneath the machine, open it up, and unplug that cable from the circuit board. And you need to have tiny little fingers to get in there. So I think I'll just replace, well, I can hear the motor seizing. At least it sounds like that to me. So we'll see. So that's a new thing I'm playing with today. I think now, after all this time that I've had 3D printers, I've practically rebuilt them with the new parts. One thing has been a learning experience. By having to replace parts and things like that with these, I have really learned how these things work. I can tell you that. Now, if this doesn't solve my problem and I try the cable and that doesn't solve the problem, then I don't know what the problem is. And I think what I'll do is I'll scrap this one and I'll buy a new one. Then the question comes, do I want to buy the same thing again? Or do I want to buy, I'd probably buy another Creality, but they have more expensive and larger models as well. So do I bite the bullet and for a few more $100 than what I paid for this printer, buy a more elaborate one? Because, you know, the more elaborate you go with these kind of things, the more problems you could have. I don't know. We'll see. I'll keep you informed if you're interested. Okay, so that takes me to Blast from the Past trips. This is still Australia. This is March the 5th, 2018, and it's part 2 of the Canberra excursion we went on. Canberra is the nation's capital, Australia's capital, and here's the next part of that.
And this is the National Art Gallery.
Okay, so this is just an example of Aboriginal painting that's done in a art center in the Roper River in Ireland. I mean, obviously, because it's crocodile and tortoises, it has to be near water. You're not going to have those animals living in the desert. So they're on a riverbank. When people started to have art centers, patterns their views and things like that, and then they rubbed this sort of a red. That part of Australia is almost all iron ore, so you can sort of see it's all this sort of red sort of stuff, and you fly over it, you can just see it's all red with a few, you know, sort of sagebrush and things like that sort of coming through. Candy baskets from reeds, and then necklaces from, these are just mostly short, small shells, and they can also be, mostly these are just tiny little shells that they just sort of drill out and make necklaces from them. I mean, people will make necklaces out of shark teeth. You've been to Alice Springs or Uluru yet? Okay, this is near about 150 kilometers from Alice Springs station. This station was run by Germans after the Germans used to have Papua New Guinea before the first, and when they found one of these colors, then what they had to do is that they just find a piece of rock or some dirt that looks like, and then they make a paint of it, and then they use that on here, and they love it, you know, orange, brownish, orange, beige, sort of pattern, limited sort of pattern, and they can get the white, the dips, and the black is either charcoal or there's a manganese ore decoration, you know, and time to sort of do this sort of stuff. And some of them are extremely, you know, elaborate, or that you look at it. Now, when I was so saying that Naranjira, those sort of watercolors that we looked at, he was living in a mission. There were quite a lot of other missions there too, and they were obviously trying to get Aboriginals to learn the Christianity. And so this is an Aboriginal cave, this mission in Canada, it's the United States, the First Nation people. This here is a picture of a farm forest, which is in Victoria, just not far from the South border. Here is got some jigsaw puzzles. If you look at the jigsaw closely, you can see it doesn't fit. The pieces don't fit. So, I mean, you can look at this as a textiles, going textiles. This is Australian sort of gallery here. This particular person, Eugene von Gerard, he was an Austrian artist who was trained in Austria and Italy, and when he came here, he painted. This is the, do you know Sydney at all? Have you been to Sydney? Have you been to the Blue Mountains?
Not yet.
Okay, well this is the near Wentworth, this is the Blue Mountains that sort of he painted when he first came out. Looking, it's a bit like, you know, going back to the old classical sort of things like the again, it's sort of like a sort of a modern version of, you know, but they're using the type of sort of things that, yeah, I mean, it would be very similar.
And so we just finished a very brief tour of the National Art Gallery. And you saw a little glimpse of what they have. It's a pretty big gallery. Now we're off to, I think, the Houses of Parliament. Okay, so these are the Houses of Parliament, the federal seat of government in Australia. Thank you. And we're going inside.
We'll see more of that inside. I'll try and explain a bit of that in there.
So we're inside the front foyer, and they made us strip practically. I'm not from Iraq.
I think I was about the last one.
Prime Minister or President from overseas or royalty, then the government will probably put on a banquet lunch or a banquet dinner for the occasion, where you can seat 900 people quite easily, comfortably in here for that arrangement. Other than that, there's been one or two Parliament meetings in here, government meetings I should say, where they've invited 1,000 people to listen or give their views on something or other. But other than that, it becomes very much a public hall. And we find we've got 4 universities in Canberra. 3 of them use this place for graduation ceremonies. And they do that twice a year, and it takes about 3 days each time to put a group through. So it's a prestigious place to collect your certificates at the end of your studies, I guess. Pretty plain, doesn't it? See here, this is one of the walls that you see outside. It goes down, way down the road there. You can see it coming up with the grass growing over the top. Big arc. Big half circle, the wall. Yeah, here it runs for about 600 metres from one end to the other. Similarly on the other side of the building. There's another wall like that.
Yeah, another 3 months or so.
This area here, you've gone into that washroom. This area here is called the Members' Hall, That's the members' hall still in there. This is the public area, a very generous area for us to come in at any time and move around and see what's going on. Essentially, that goes down to the level below, the light. What it had was a glass roof over it, a pyramid type of roof. It was glass. Okay. Good one. Right, we'll sit down. That's Quentin Bryce, Governor General, the last Governor General we had.
Yeah, that's him before. Yeah, that's what I said it's Ted Cosgrove now. I wasn't sure whether there was another woman or whether we still had him or whether there was a new one.
Just looking at the lady back there, if you need to, that would be really well.
It was the red one.
It's the red one this time. Oh, wow.
So we're up on the roof of the Parliament building, and they're doing some work up here, replacing their pyramid skylight with something else in the future because it was leaking. That's what all this white is. It's here. And in the distance, you can see the original Parliament buildings. And this is the flag on top.
And so that takes me to events in the past week. Nothing. It was a dead week. It really was. Well, yeah, I had quilts that I was making and YouTube videos I was making and stuff like that, but didn't really go anywhere. In fact, I'm trying to think, did I even get out of the house? I think we went to Costco one day. Yeah. Speaking of Costco, they have these wonderful sea salt and caramel dark chocolate things that are great. They're wonderful. They're very decadent. They're by a company called Sanders. Anyway, someone gave us some of those a year ago or something, and they were great. Well, just before Christmas, they were sort of on sale over at Costco again. We bought another container of them. And yes, we've been munching on them. Really don't need to. You know, calories, all that kind of stuff. I'm already a fat pig, so, you know, have another chocolate, you big fat pig. So I do. But the other day I saw a news report from a newspaper in our area, online of course, saying that there was a recall on those because there could be bits of plastic in there. Okay, we have this much in the container left. The container's this big. So if there was plastic in the ones that we had, it's now inside of me. So I immediately took what was left of them, sealed it up, and next time we're at Costco, I guess I'll take them back. It's a recall. I'm going to say to him, yeah, I didn't see the recall until I ate 3/4 of them. You know, if you're dead in the morning, I'll sue you, but kind of a thing. But anyways, I guess, so no more of those because now I don't want to buy them again. And then I got looking. This should have been a rant. Then I got looking at Costco has a site where you can go in and see what they've been recalling. Holy crap. over the last year, they've had a lot of food products that they've recalled that we didn't know anything about. They have everything from chicken to pre-made dinners, things like that. And a lot of them were Kirkland signature products. You know, Kirkland is their own brand, which I always find their own brand is very good. But now it makes me wonder, okay, what's with all these recalls? Now, mind you, some of those recalls were for very minor things that were not necessarily harmful to your health, but some of the other ones were a little bit scary. So, what does one do about that? Now, this isn't something that's just Costco, right? I mean, how many things have we bought at the grocery store and didn't really realize they had a recall until after the fact, like after the fact that it's been in your system? So I don't know. Maybe it's nothing much to worry about. I'm still here. I ate the chocolates. I didn't notice any plastic. Didn't really specify either what kind of plastic. Microplastic? We probably already absorb a lot of that. I mean, how could we not in this modern day and age? You know, it's just not the little duckies that are getting the plastic bags caught around their necks or whatever in their beaks. We humans too. We're our own worst enemies, aren't we? When it comes to all this kind of stuff. Yeah. So, anyways, that was about the whole highlight of the week, finding out there was a recall on something that may have killed me. Okay. So what's coming up? Well, this Wednesday we have the next edition of the Sew Along with Stephanie and Stephen Sew Along. This is our first, or we've already had our first live session. This will be our second, where we're moving on with the project. And boy, did I blow it. I warned everybody about that I am an idiot. I've never done a sew along before, and I ran into some problems, which I'm going to share with everybody that's following us on the sew along on Wednesday. Now, don't panic. It's okay if you've cut your fabric and everything like that. It's more tips or tricks, but I'm going to show you what the problem was then. So stay tuned for that if you're one of the people following us on the sew along. And I've already talked about our travel plans updates, and I'm getting excited about the fact now that we've got everything booked and that of taking off for foreign parts. One thing though I'm a little worried about is I'm not a young man anymore. And when we were younger, like last year, when we go on trips, we tend to walk a lot, which is good. I'm wondering if I'm going to be able to do that as well. I mean, I don't have any problem walking or anything, but you know, you get a little bit tired faster. So needless to say, we may be in bed by 9 o'clock on this trip. That'll be rough on Walter. He's not used to that. But yeah, we'll see about that, how that all works out. But anyways, I'm looking forward to it. Okay, well, that's it for this week. Nothing more that I can think to tell you about. So tune in tomorrow for the next episode of Idiot Quilter. And we'll have So Chatty on Friday. We are thinking about talking in detail on So Chatty about picking the colors of threads for machine embroidery. That is one of the mysteries for a lot of people when they first get a machine embroidery or get an embroidery machine. Use your words. So we're going to talk a little bit about that because that can be very, very confusing what to do, especially when you buy a pattern or a file to stitch out and they're asking for this thread and this thread and you don't have those threads. What do you do? So we're going to talk about that in more detail in Friday's episode of So Chatty. And then, of course, we'll have Stephen and Walter live on Sunday. So hope to see you then for all of these events. Have a great week, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.